Welcome to the JDC West 2021 Business Technology Management Case presentation sponsored by Integration Works. Thank you to our judges, Danielle Parsons, Manager of Continuous Improvement at Bison Transport, Justin Funk, Founder of Damon Defense, Claudio Sosa, Founding Partner and Director of HR at Integration Works, and Murray Leckie, Principal Consultant at Integration Works. Competitors will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Immediately following the presentation, judges will have a total of 5 minutes to ask the presenters questions. I am our academic moderator who will be timekeeper and control overall flow of the presentation format. Time intervals will be noted in the Zoom chat by myself beginning at the 10-minute mark. Following the presentation, I will facilitate question and answer period. Judges will indicate their intent to ask a question using the hand raise function, which I will call on them to indicate the next question. Please note that no questions or comments will be permitted from the audience at any time. The audience is also prohibited from communicating to the presenters in any forum, including Zoom or via any other mediums during the presentation and question period. If you are an observer, please ensure that your camera is off and microphone is muted. Once the question period has completed, the Zoom meeting will end. Competitors, you are now free to begin your presentation.
Growth is optional, but change is inevitable. You have been determined on providing quality specialty foods to Canadians and have created a successful business that have been able to expand across 14 locations with a future goal of expanding all across Canada. In the age of innovation and COVID-19, there's been a greater reliance on emerging technologies and change towards improved digitalization to better serve customers. We have leveraged your industry experience, technology research, and changes in employee and customer needs to help guide our strategic recommendation. So good afternoon, executives. My name is Ricky and these are my colleagues, Prabja and Nicole, and we are here on behalf of Minerva Consulting. We have one main objective for you today, and that is to advise on the best course of action with regard to Project Mont Blanc, whether to overhaul the solution or completely abandon it. We have devised 3 key analysis points that go over data configuration and inaccuracy, employee frustration, and customer dissatisfaction, which drives our strategy of future of foods. That consists of a system overhaul, IT hiring and request for proposal, as well as addressing the data migration concerns and a solution that will cure it, with an impact that will increase your sales of $420,000 by the end of year 2, which will allow you to grow your company all across Canada in the future. With that being said, let us go straight into the analysis, starting with the current situation. The current state of your company is that you have expanded to 14 specialty food stores, and you have commenced your Project Mont Blanc to upgrade your current data architecture to support your future growth and operations. However, there's currently problems with this project in the fact that there are long-term hours of data uploads, and sometimes that there are 2 to 3 weekly data failures that happen, which inhibit you from uploading onto the cloud. There's now data inconsistencies and inaccuracies, which cause employee and customer frustration. The future state of your company is that you want to be able to expand. So you need to address these problems in order for you to achieve that. Now let's consider 3 key stakeholder groups of your company, starting with your company. The needs and wants is that you want to maximize your profits and continue expanding throughout Canada. And the inability to do that, there will be operational disruptions and increased costs if projected Mont Blanc cannot support the growth of your company and the future operations. Next, your employees. They want fair wages and the ability to perform their work a lot easier. The inability to do that will create a lot of more mistakes for your employees to experience, which will increase their employee frustration and lead to potential turnover. Lastly, your customers. They want the convenience and to be able to order specialty foods without having that technical error, to be able to see the potential stock and not be disappointed from it. The inability to achieve this will result in a decrease in revenue due to an increase in customer churn. And the takeaway here is that without a sufficient data platform, employees will not be able to perform their work accurately, which will cause the entire system to experience inconsistencies and difficulties, which will inevitably turn away your potential customers.
So we've established that a successful data architecture is key to your goal of expansion across Canada. And so we decided to dive a little deeper into the issue of data inaccuracy. And for that issue, we determined that this was a result of poor data mapping when you earlier implemented the solution. So normally what happens in data mapping is that you would identify where the raw data comes from. And then through the internet, these data will be then stored on the cloud. And through a data specialist, they will map the types of data you'll need into a specific software interface for the end users. And because that wasn't done properly, you might experience data inaccuracies. For example, you notice that in your point of sale system that some of the SKUs weren't matching. And because it wasn't properly mapped, that's why you're seeing these data inaccuracies, as well as the feeding of information of the inaccurate data set. So that's just one aspect of why you might be seeing data inaccuracy. The second is the choice of batch processing. Because each upload happens once a week, any edits made within that week is actually not reflected until the week after, which is why some of your employees may be having difficulties and inconsistencies with the data that they are shown. And so these two issues combined lead to several data inaccuracy issues, such as forecasting errors. And this ultimately impacts customer dissatisfaction due to backlogs of certain popular products that you offer, as well as missed revenue. And so ultimately, what we determined here is that the poor data mapping causes the issues of data inaccuracy, which ultimately negatively impacts the profitability as well as the success of your business.
So now we want to talk about how the data inaccuracy is impacting your employees as well as your customers. And we're going to start with the employee frustration due to the issues with this new cloud solution. So why are these employees frustrated? A lot of it is around the fact that they have an unreliable POS system due to those data inconsistencies. There's no professional IT personnel support to correct any issues. So someone to look up to for any support that they need and to ask any questions so that they can efficiently reduce any of the problems that they're facing when making key decisions. And the last one here is a lack of real-time reports, as those are crucial, especially in the decision making of the organization. So what this has resulted in is this lack of trust for the system and potential risk of customer dissatisfaction. So a key takeaway is the absence of a service desk to address these issues with the cloud solution stimulates employee frustration, leading to decreased work productivity, which has a significant impact on your organization. So this is why we want to now look at how is this data inconsistency also impacting that side of the side of customers, and why there may be customer dissatisfaction. So this is where we want to look at something that's currently impacting the industry that you're in, which is COVID. And COVID is increasing the sales and greater reliance on digital solutions, as we're seeing that there's been a 17% increase in shopping online for Canadians in 2020. So this is an area of emphasis, especially with the impact that COVID has had on this trend to moving towards purchasing products online. So if you're not able to meet those demands and needs of your customers, especially when you're providing them with the goods that you have at your stores, it decreases overall brand loyalty and revenue. So the key takeaway here is that your organization isn't able to meet those online customer demands, which is resulting in this decrease in brand loyalty and revenue.
Now let's go into the decision matrix, whether you should overhaul or abandon your current system. We have graded this on 4 key metrics, weighting the first 2 of alignment with business strategy and supporting your decision-making, most important as compared to the other 2. We have come to the conclusion that overhauling your solution is the best thing for you to do as a company. And the reason for this is because that you have the ability to automate processes and generate insights and analytics with this new solution. But most importantly, you are able to scale your solution for long-term goal of expanding throughout Canada. And the alternative will result in inefficiencies in the use of your invested resources. And additionally, you'll have increased skepticism with future technologies implementation in your organization. And by abandoning this, you will not have a scalable solution for your overall future goal. Now let's go right into the recommendation of the future of foods. By overhauling your system, we recommend that first, it involves correcting the data mapping, 2, having real-time data reporting, and 3, re-stimulating the employee interest. By being able to overhaul your system through these 3 key steps, you're able to decrease food waste and increase the lead time accuracy. So you're able to identify how much you're spending on food, as well as when the next shipment will come more accurately. Furthermore, you'll increase employee productivity because now there will be no employee frustration. Additionally, there will be no customer frustration as well, which will result in your company having more regular customers coming back. And lastly, this solution of overhauling the system will prepare you for a scalable solution in the future. The first step here is that we need to hire an IT lead early on to support the user adoption. Meet David, a potential client, a potential IT lead that has previous experience with cloud solutions and an MIS in computer programming education. Most importantly, he has a leadership and experience on leading IT teams, which means that he will be able to lead your 5 employees that are always working on maintaining your solution. Lastly, he has over 5 years of industry experience. And the key benefit of all of this is that David is an experienced IT leader that will spearhead and lead your current and future IT projects with the ability to resolve any problems that may occur and prioritize these problems with his team.
So this is where we want to go into the next step, which is building out or developing a request for proposal. So when it comes to the request for proposal, this is all about finding the right consulting company that's going to be able to help you with the data migration, as well as making sure that your current system that you're using is going to be scalable. So there's some key things that we want to consider here is having a configuration of a scalable solution, having those demonstrations as well as elaboration meetings so that the consulting company can better understand your business model and make sure that it will scale in the long run, as well as data migration and data template building, as that's one of the factors that takes the longest, as well as the most important to you right now with your current data inconsistencies. And the last thing is the training, support, and documentation moving forward with maintaining the system. And this is where we want to look at data migration considerations and what the consulting company will be in charge of. So what they'll be looking at is your current data warehouse and your current system. So they'll figure out the exact data mapping that needs to occur based on the relationships that exist in your data warehouse as well as your current system, and make sure that if there is any inconsistencies, how to update, fix, and change the data to ensure that it is able to meet the reporting needs for your organization. And the last thing that we want to go into when it comes to data deliverables and insights and being able to take action on those data pieces that you have is around looking at pulling in information about your products, seeing what products are very popular, the shelf life, lead time as well, and anticipating the COGS and sales. Through those data insights and the data that you're collecting, you're going to be able to make key deliverables moving forward once the data piece is fixed, which is around better forecasting and understanding demands, making sure that you're prioritizing the right products when ordering it, making sure your backlog it fits the forecasting correctly, as well as better stock management and potentially even looking at better discount opportunities for your customers.
As with any sort of cloud solution, cybersecurity is definitely an area of concern. But with respect to Project Mont Blanc and the correcting the data mapping, what we identified is key here will be encryption of data, not only at rest data, but also during transmission when you're doing the data migration. And so it's important to first identify the types of data that you will be moving over to the cloud, whether that's on-prem or cloud data already, and then to explore encryption methods that's available to you through the cloud to make sure that all of your data are protected. And also kind of diving into the cloud cybersecurity, the shared responsibility model, it's important that you identify what sorts of cybersecurity initiatives you are in charge of. And this mainly refers to access control, ensuring that only authenticated users have access to your organizational data, as well as implementing certain policies that we'll discuss later in the next slide. But also want to touch on clean desk policy. That's super important. Doesn't matter if your data online is protected. If you have customer data leaving on desks, that's definitely another risk of data breach. So now diving deeper into data policies, it's important that now that you're moving all this data online, how your employees going to use this data. And so through policies such as data usage, you're able to identify what that data can be used for and should not be used for. And some other policies that are important as well include data access, so access control, like we previously said, as well as policies to ensure data integrity, to ensure that business decision-making is not tampered, as well as data destruction. So how you're gonna permanently remove customer-sensitive data is also key, as well as administrative policies. So making sure that access control are deactivated for resigning employees. And so moving on to the communication plan, this is key because we anticipate that employees may be resistant through their first experience with the cloud solution. So what this really means is to prepare your employees through town halls, as well as to manage these concerns that may arise within departments through change champions. And some criteria we look for in change champions are top performers, someone who's friendly, approachable, and finally to enforce it through gamification. So using training modules and earning badges and rewards based on how much training they've done.
With our Future of Food strategy, you'll be able to better serve your customers. Now meet Emily, a potential customer of your company. She wants to find those hard to find Central American ingredients, so she browses your online store and sees that it's available because this solution provides that insight. She lives close by, so she decides to do some shopping and she's able to find the product she wants and she's super happy. And your employees are also happy because the system is working, so they better serve her. This will enable customer satisfaction and motivate them to return as a regular customer, which increases your profits and market share, which will lead you to the long-term considerations. In terms of your long-term considerations, as we've said, your overarching goal is expanding through Canada. The 5-year plan here is that you have a cloud system now, which is super scalable. But to further this scalable system, you should add in the potential of tracking employee and customer analytics by looking over things such as purchase history, wanted products, and even working habits. By having these data-driven insights, you are better at making data, you're enabled to make better decisions, which will lead you of your overarching goal.
And diving straight into the implementation plan, this consists of 5 steps, with the largest time-consuming chunk being the design and implementation phase. So design is where you're going to be designing your data templates, as well as performing any functional testing of the data migration. And then moving on to the implementation, that's when you're going to perform user acceptance testing, as well as actually deploying the solution. And then after implementation will be your maintenance. So looking at any updates that are available and then doing data review sessions. So now looking at the implementation timeline, this takes approximately 6 months with 3 key milestones. The first is securing a partnership with the consulting and integration company. And then the next milestone will be having an actual prototype complete, and then the actual deployment of your cloud solution.
To give a high-level overview of what some of the expenses incurred for the strategy implementation will be around hiring an IT specialist, getting the consulting team on board, as well as the change management incentives. So what we're expecting is within the first year, total expenses to be approximately $202,000. And there are some costs that will go over to year 2, year 3 as their ongoing costs. So the total expenses that we're anticipating by the end of year 3 is about $366,000. We're also anticipating an increase in sales of $420,000 after year 2.
So how do we ensure that this strategy is going to be successful through the use of our KPIs. The tracking metrics here that we have is a decrease in wasted foods and lead times that your company has tracked through the system, and a 10% increase in online sales. With this, you are able to decrease employee frustration. And we have done some industry benchmark research and realized that technologies have reduced supply chain food waste by 5%, and expected grocery sales must be greater than 10% by 2025, thus the 10% increase in online sales from this technology implementation. And if you have a score of 9 to 10, that means that your employees are super happy with their work. Lastly, in terms of risks and mitigations, one key risk is that there may be a lack of employee adoption and increase in resistance. If you provide sufficient internal support and training while rewarding incentives, this can be mitigated. To conclude our presentation, we have gone through the objective of advising you to overhaul your system with the 3 key analysis points with a strategy of the future of foods, where you overhaul your system, hire an IT, and do a request for proposal, as well as data migration. This strategy will increase your sales by $420,000 by the end of year 2 and allow you to change.
Thank you, competitors. We will now begin the question and answer period. Danielle. Danielle, you're up first.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My question is about hiring somebody to be working on this project. It looks like you've earmarked David, I believe, to be hired. What does that relationship look like in terms of his relationship with Alvarez and Vasquez? Have we considered that and how it would work?
Yes, some key considerations is that the 2 individuals from the university will still be there to support as they potentially graduate. There may be opportunities to actually start a full-time job with your organization, but some of the key considerations about hiring an IT specialist is to have one person who's going to act as almost like the project manager on your organization side when talking to the consulting team, when doing the data migration and building out the system. So that's one of his biggest roles. And he'll work in collaborations with the 2 university students and with the rest of the individuals who are users of the current system.
Justin?
Thanks, guys. After meeting with consultants all morning, we've decided to sell the company. Does that change your recommendation at all?
No, it does not change your recommendation because of such a scalable solution. By selling your company, this solution may even increase the value of your company. So the purchasers may have this team of excellent IT specialists leading this charge of this cloud solution, as well as this cloud solution will be able to provide your new purchasers added insights and better make decisions, thus increasing the value of your company even more.
Claudio.
Just had a question about cybersecurity. So you spent a little bit of time talking about privacy security in the implementation, but that didn't seem to be emphasized in the root analysis. So if we look at doing this new project, why the renewed interest or a new interest in cybersecurity if that wasn't an issue to begin with?
What we wanted to highlight in analysis are key questions that are or key issues that are most prominent. And cybersecurity is an issue that I feel is not specific enough. It's something that everyone faces in the industry when you enter online. And so it's always going to be an issue. Everyone faces the potential of cyber attacks. And we did want to highlight it and bring attention to it in our recommendation that it's important and it's worth a thought when actually carrying out our future of food strategy. Does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Murray?
Thank you. As you noted in your situational analysis, there is an impact right now on our business today. So we're trying to keep the doors open, keep our customers happy, yet we're dealing with these problems with the system. How much of your time are you going to need from our current employees so that you can successfully execute your plan?
Based on the 5 users that you currently have that maintain most of the system and input the data, as well as with the hire of the IT specialist, he or she will be on there for full time. So that's 40 hours a week plus you'll also have the 5 users. About 50% of their time will also be allocated to this new, with the new system updates that will be occurring, as well as the 2 university students that are on your team. They can also support on the side as well.
Do you think you'll need access to any other employees besides the 5 you specified?
So later in the communication strategy is when we'll bring in additional employees as change champions to drive adoption through individual departments. That's the only time we recognize any participation needed on behalf of the team.
Any further questions? About 20 seconds left. Justin.
Just quickly, the increase in sales of 420,000 by the end of year 2. Can you just give me a quick summary of where that's coming from?
Yeah, so it's anticipated based on not being able to meet the customer's demand. About 1 out of 20 of the products that they purchase is missed. So it's based on that calculation, and 14 stores with 1.5
Thank you, competitors. That now concludes the presentation. You may now exit the Zoom.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening.
Yes, thanks so much for sitting in.
We appreciate your time.